Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Cale Casey back with you, October 1st, 10 a.m. I've got two special guests today, Jeremy Michael, our air specialist, and Willie Branson in the back, who's going to be talking about safety issues. But I do have some breaking news in the field. I just had our smoke jumper, public information officer, Mike McMillan, who turned hats during the blow-up a couple days ago and went from public information into protecting structures. He just gave me a call to give us an update. We know there's been a lot of tension, a lot of stress for folks in Ruth Valley and Henshaw. We know there's rumors going on social media, and we just want to make sure everybody takes a pause and let's get some facts straight here. Mike said that there hasn't been any structure damage or loss in the last 2 shifts. So that's in the Ruth and Henshaw area. Now Tuesday, I also have intel from the Assistant Chief Isaac from the Humboldt District of CalFire. They were in there last on Tuesday, and they can confirm that after the blow up over the weekend, Sunday, Monday, which was very challenging, the lid lifted, the columns went up, we had the ember showers, we had all the issues that's leading to the smoke that we'll be talking about now, which is hazardous. There were structures lost, there was issues with civilians staying in place, but CalFire was sending engines over to help. That's standard procedure between the teams to ask for assistance. They were protecting from Ruth Lake up to Journey's End. They even had folks go up to Picket Peak to get additional situational awareness. So CalFire has been involved, so the folks out there like Chris and folks who are putting up the videos that are trying to get people all riled up about the Forest Service and CalFire not working together, please, let's just have an understanding here. When we say Greens Pants Nation, even though CalFire wears blue and not their necessarily green nomics like Forest Service and all the contractors do, we are one team here. We are all truly in this together. And I come from a fire-affected community. You've heard me say that before, but I live in the black. I cleaned up 21 tons of metal from one of the structures on our property this summer and had it hauled away. I get it. This is scary. It's really hard to put all the pieces together, and we just got to all work together to understand that CalFire has been coming in and helping. They came in on Sunday night. They worked all night. They came back on Tuesday. We haven't lost structures in a couple days, so please tamp the rumors down. Give everybody a chance to keep working out there. There is a lot of country to cover. There's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of challenges. Mike said that the dozers are working around the structures, improving the dozer line by adding more. We have video of that up on YouTube. The firefighters are doing the point protection. There's a lot of fire line out there. We're going to try to get back on the offensive and dig direct fire line, but right now it is about preserving the rest of those structures. So again, please, let's, for the benefit of everybody out there, including the local fire crews, the fire crews that come from out of state and out of region, your local Trinity and Mendocino and Mad River crews, let's respect their hard work. Let's all calm down for a minute and realize that we're in this together. Now, being in it together, and I was out at Forest Glen last night and drove out to Hayfork, this air quality is exactly what Brooke Tabor said it was going to be. There's a cap over the fire, and it was extremely hard to breathe yesterday. Absolutely. I got a headache. Please help folks understand today what we're facing in this hazardous air quality, Jeremy.
Yeah, so if, I want to start, let's start out, in the broad area, the Sacramento Valley, the coastal communities, and everyone. We're seeing significant widespread impacts. Not as bad as the last unprecedented smoke event that we had, but it's still significant. And in some locations, it's just as bad, if not worse. We break these levels out for an air quality index. We go from good, when you can see the blue sky and it's really nice air out, to moderate, to unhealthy for sensitive groups, to unhealthy, to very unhealthy, and to hazardous. And the reason we do that is every time we go up a different level, it encompasses a larger amount of the population. When you start getting to levels of unhealthy, that's pretty much everybody. So even really healthy individuals, if you go out there and you're jogging and you're sucking that smoke in, you're going to have impacts, and in some cases immediate impacts. When you start getting into very unhealthy and hazardous air, you could be talking about potentially life-threatening situations. The more and more we're learning about smoke, we're starting to find out that smoke has been directly related to deaths in the past by inducing whether it's if you have heart disease, lung disease, some of you have diabetes, some of these these vulnerable communities, it can induce heart attacks and other things like that when we're dealing with smoke this thick. So let's everywhere we're seeing pretty much unhealthy, but let's zoom into these communities around this fire, and more specifically anybody that's still in these locations, some of the area you're going to be dealing with. So we have air quality monitoring in Hayfork. And when I left yesterday, it was already very unhealthy. They had periods of hazardous air last night. And when we're talking hazardous, that's the worst there is. There's no other category above that, even though it can get significantly worse. And we're seeing that in Hayfork. And Hayfork is still, here's our fire. This smoke has to work all the way up here. Smoke wants to run downhill, down drainage, down river valleys, like the Eel River, Mad River, those areas, and sit in low spots like Ruth Lake. So we're seeing hazardous air here, and when you have this day in and day out, you can start to have significant health impacts, as well as some of the other things that have been burnt or burning. There are a lot of unknown chemicals and different things that make up and that are in this smoke. So you might not just be breathing wildfire smoke. That can really exasperate and make things worse. And with the strong high pressure that Brooke has been talking about, we don't see an improvement anywhere in these deep valleys as well as anywhere in the Sacramento Valley. Over the next couple days, we could have some slight improvement on this side of the fire for the coastal communities as we get a little bit better push of wind. But it's going to be really hard to break these inversions and lift this smoke out.
Okay, great. And let's talk about Hypebomb. I talked to this store owner, Lee, and thanks, Lee and Lisa and Mary up there for helping us out. Thanks for the bar owner for helping us out, putting information out. Hypebomb definitely pools that air too. So they should also know this is not the time to be mountain biking and hiking and getting out, even though you think, well, maybe it's worse because they saw my video from Forest Glen where it's literally so thick I could hardly even think straight.
Yeah, when you're looking at, I like to use visibility. We can't have air quality monitors everywhere. So if you're using visibility, when you can't see a mile, it's starting to get pretty bad. When you can't see a half mile, quarter mile, or to the end of the driveway, it's really bad. And I want to take a minute and talk about different types of evacuations. So we all know we do evacuations for fire, and we work with our partners in that. But in this part of the country, it is not uncommon to actually have smoke evacuations. So I want to stress, if you're still in these locations, or even outside of your locations, if you are in this very unhealthy to hazardous air for a prolonged amount of time, and you are in what were considered our vulnerable groups, senior citizens, children, where your lungs and your body's still developing, pregnant women, people that don't have access to adequate health care or health advice, as well as those chronic illnesses, diabetes, heart disease, lung disease. It might be a good idea if you have friends or family that is in, even if it's just moderately better air, it might be time to go pay a visit with them and stay with them, or reach out to your primary care physician, your health department, Red Cross, and see if there are options to get you into some cleaner air. Check out our smoke outlook. The California Air Resource Board and your air board districts have a tremendous amount of information where you can make clean air rooms inside of your house, get HEPA filters, anything and everything that you can do to take care of you and your loved ones.
Great, and that's really important today. And thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate that. We're going to have Willie Branson come up, and Jeremy does write us a report every day that we put on both INCIWeb and the Facebook pages. He's obviously a great speaker. He's also an incident meteorologist, so he's got that weather background. We appreciate that. Willie's one of our safety officers. He lives up in Fairbanks, Alaska, and I know that there are community members who are already asking for like an after-action review to kind of understand how things went in Ruth Valley. It's really hard when somebody only has one segment of the pie. When I was talking to Assistant Chief Lake, he was saying that there were 40 residents the other night during the blow-up. They were told it's time now for humanitarian leave and only 9 left. That complicates things. We understand that folks want more answers, and sometimes it takes a long time to put together. But I do want to say that those conversations should happen, and they should happen in a professional way. But safety-wise, safety concern-wise, help folks understand kind of what the fire crews are facing. Now we have the carbon monoxide issue.
Yes.
That's kind of always with us, in addition to some angry public, which is also a mental challenge with going through long nights of moving camps and having issues around head and I mean, there's just so many issues stacking up. How do you deal with that as a safety officer?
Well, first off, I want to thank Jeremy. It's the smoke issues that we face and that the public are facing are very real. It does pose a hazard to our health. It also poses a hazard to our firefighters and the public as they're driving around. So just to back up a little bit, you'd mentioned something it's interesting. It's something we don't think about. When a wildfire comes in, as a safety officer, my job is to manage risk. We can't eliminate risk because it's inherent that every time we get into a vehicle, we have an opportunity for someone to get into a vehicle accident. Every time that we're working along the fire line, there's snags, those are dead trees, whether they're burning or not, they could fall, injure us, working around heavy equipment, same thing. So there are risks that we try to manage. When a fire blows up like it did in the Ruth Valley, the wind came in, it jumped Ruth Lake, so roughly, what do they say, 2.5 miles spotting distances. That's a pretty difficult thing. If you imagine Interstate 5 and a fire burning over to it, you would think that's a pretty easy thing to hold. Well, when the event happened that it did the other day, it just jumped right over the top of it, it would just keep going. So how do we manage the risks in Ruth Valley when things like that happen? One is through evacuations. So our number one priority is public and firefighter safety, and we hold steadfast to that. We don't change our tactics unless that piece is taken care of. In the situation, and it's not just Ruth Valley, it's anywhere, and almost every fire we go onto, if it's an evacuation order in that area, getting people out is our number one priority at that point in time. We've seen it on a variety of different fires. From the old Oakland Hills fire, we had challenges, and most recently, Paradise. That sits pretty heavy on everyone's heart, and all the way to Ruth Valley. There are folks in there that our firefighters have to make the choice to protect a home or to get public out of the way. And so it takes our focus and puts it on the number one priority, and that is firefighter and public safety. So moving public out of the area is our number one priority. And the challenges that we face at that point in time is you lose a little bit of situational awareness because you're not necessarily focused on the fire and focused on the structures that you should be protecting. You're focused on getting people out of the fire area. So some of the firefighters are in doing the job, and even your public information officer, he grabbed a drip torch, he's burning around houses, protecting houses, while other firefighters are taking their time out to move people out of the fire area. Once we add those people that are safe, then it goes back to managing that risk. So we have a tremendous amount of fire. It's spotting all over the Ruth Valley, and that's a challenging thing to deal with because the smoke lays in, makes it very difficult to see. You see different fires, you're getting different reports that fires are by this house or that house, and what might seem to be a chaotic situation, we have to manage that. And so that goes with our overhead. And overhead are basically, if you imagine a supervisory position wherever you work, we consider that overhead. So they manage a variety of different engines, to say. And so the engines go down each and every one of these roads, and if they report back that, hey, this road is compromised, maybe it's been burned over, we can't get in. Well, unfortunately, at that point in time, we know that we can't get into there. And so we bounce to the next house. And that's how we manage risk. Now, we don't stop trying to get into there. We keep coming back until it's safe, and then we get into that resident. And if we have an opportunity, we'll set up and try to save that residence. So that's typically how it goes when you're managing risk in those type of situations. It's very high-paced. It's very dynamic. If you don't have extremely experienced individuals, it takes a little bit of extra effort on the manager's role to try to manage their risk because they're focused on protecting the structure, and the manager should be focusing on the bigger picture. So they're focusing on the fire. Did it hit here? The long-term egress, that means the way that we get out if everything goes bad, has to be in place, because if it's not, then we're putting ourselves at risk as well. So get the people out first. That's our number one objective. Get our resources in, get them set up where we can, and that's where we start fighting fire. And in the background, what you don't really see is we might have right now, a little over 1,000.
We're about 1,400. Yep,
1,400 people.
firefighters.
But look at the geographic expanse that we have on this fire. We had folks all the way down dealing with the Zog fire that was burning right towards one of our camps. And there's one thing that, if anybody is ever in the military, they would know, logistics wins wars. So without your logistic backbone set up, you can't support your firefighters in the field. That's just how it is. And our camp was to get burned over. Well, the threats were that they were there. So we had a few resources down there. We had quite a few resources during the blow up out by Post Mountain. And they were trying to get the fire off. We had to make sure the road was closed, make sure people weren't coming into the area. And then we were shifting a whole bunch of resources into this area, which there were quite a few to begin with. But that's when your situational awareness of where are the 1,400 firefighters? Well, they're all over this fire. And they're protecting homes in the Forest Glen area. They're protecting homes here. They're working at protecting camps on both different locations. It's a pretty challenging situation when you really think about it. And
Yep, and I thank you for that, and I really just ask for folks' support. Please refrain from speculating on Facebook and trying to rile up a division between Forest Service or CalFire or Alaska crews or local crews. It's not helpful. I've been through this for dozens of years now. It really doesn't get us anywhere, and mental health is really important. There are wives and husbands watching this right now who have firefighters who dug a line all last night that you didn't see, or who worked out on a portion of the fire that you don't know of, and you're saying you feel abandoned. Now, I want to relate to that. It's really scary. It's a stressful time. It's really important that you understand that we get that. It is scary. It is stressful. When I talked to our CalFire counterpart today, there's a lid effect. When the lid pulls off like it did on the red flag, that's when everything's getting crazy, and that's when everybody has to engage as safely as possible. When the lid caps, so for example, CalFire sent additional engines over. When the lid capped, there weren't structures to protect anymore because there wasn't fire behavior around them like it was when the lid was off. So we very much have this game going on by Mother Nature, and we're in one of those lulls right now. We haven't lost a structure in 2 days. Please spread that word. There are people online right now who'd like to make you think otherwise. We haven't lost a structure in 2 days. Also, the cap is on. When I was in the Forest Glen area, you can see the video from last night. We got it up right around 11 o'clock. It's there for you. There's 3 others on YouTube on our additional channel, so you can see the additional footage. Very common there because of that cap. That's going to mean it's just going to smolder in there. Those homes in the Forest Glen area don't have any active fire around them at all. Now, the crews in there probably have headaches like I did.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that they hung in there for their operational period because we had to drive with blinkers and bright lights, and it was just, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. That was really thick smoke. Now over here, again, people are working at point protection, dozers are working, those are private contractors, we have professional loggers who are working. Let's just try to be as supportive as possible. Let's get through this. We have to get work done before the next change in the weather, because we know one thing for California, it's gonna eventually clear out of here, and this fire is gonna want to eventually get up, and it's gonna eventually cause more problems. So we have to get everybody into the idea that we're in this together, that we need to get the containment lines established. We have CalFire working this west zone out here. That's been their area responsibility. There's fire activity that came out of the wilderness area during the blow-up. There's another group that's working on that. We have to watch our back door over here so this fire doesn't shoot out with a gap wind and head towards the Sacramento Valley. There's still the Zog fire that could bear down if it gets a big wind shift. And then what about a new start, right? If somebody in Hayfork or a camper or a hunter or somebody out here, situational awareness, taking a calm, a little bit of a tactical pause on the public side before we just continue to try to point fingers and make a problem that may not be able to be resolved right now worse.
yeah, and so it's interesting. I grew up real close to here, Edna and Fort Jones, played Hayfork and basketball as a kid, so I'm very familiar with the country. And
Where was your home?
Scott Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a
so
local.
I am, pretty much. I mean,
But people see you from Alaska and they say, oh, that's one of those outsider guys, right? My mom's from Gilroy, California.
yeah, well, the division India, I also grew up in pretty much my hometown. But what's interesting about it is when I hear that, I understand that maybe I definitely understand that people are upset out there. My job, I guess, is the safety aspect. And when you mentioned the lid capped, it's just like your wood stove. You open your wood stove, the fire picks up, and basically it allows the air to go up the chimney, and that's just how it works on a fire, except at a grander scale. And every time that we do hear about a wind event or anything like that, I mean, we are at level 10 of awareness. Everything that we could possibly do across the board, our firefighters are there. when you go through an event like we went through the last basically 72 hours, that event brings a tremendous amount of stress and pressure on the public as well as our firefighters. Tremendous amount. The amount of sleep that they've had over the past few days has been very little. And then many of which have been sleeping in the smoke, in the fire perimeter, because that's where they had to bed down during the night. They had to get a couple hours of sleep so they could get up. And a lot of them didn't even want to leave the structures because they don't want to wake up and find something worse there. So we put a tremendous amount of pressure on our firefighters to save homes. And when he said the cap is on, the inversion level's in. So everybody's familiar with that if you grew up in this country. So the inversion level's laid in, and our firefighters are, when you say getting a break, no, all they're doing is getting a few hours more of sleep. But unfortunately, they are breathing what Jeremy talked about, a lot of smoke. And you talk about headaches, I've had fire so thick or smoke so thick around me that it actually induced vomiting because we had that much CO and whatever chemicals were in it.
CO being carbon monoxide.
Carbon monoxide,
So you do get a
yeah.
form of poisoning from that, a little bit of lightheadedness,
Oh yeah, I mean,
disorientation.
people get to the point where they're almost passed out, and I've seen that a few times on extreme cases. It's actually happened to me. But when that smoke does lift, if you do hear of another wind switch, everybody thinks clear days are great. Oh, it's finally clear. Unfortunately for the fire, that's not necessarily the best thing. And for our firefighters, we need to make sure that they're focused on the job at hand. That is what I'm concerned about. I want to make sure that they're driving safely. I want to make sure the public is driving safely. And I want to make sure that we're ready and continuing to work, because this fire is not going to stop. This is a long duration event. It's almost 1 million acres. Tremendous when you really think about the scope and scale of this fire. It is something that California has never seen before at this scale. And with that, it brings a tremendous amount of complexity. Trying to manage that risk is extremely hard, but we have to do it together. That includes the public. It does include you. It's not just a firefighter thing. And talking with CalFire, we're sharing resources back and forth pretty much since we've been here. We have in it's called an incident action plan. We have every resource accounted for that's out there. And right there, yeah. And we have an incident action plan that accounts for CalFire's resources and ours. So if they need our help, because maybe structures are being threatened over in a different area, we can advance and go help them. Vice versa, they can advance. Unfortunately, lately they've been the one to come be helping us, because that's a situation that we dealt with.
And they've been short-staffed too. They have they are fighting fires here. They're doing initial attack, but we do want you to understand there's two kinds of response here. There's the federal protection area and the state response area, and they overlap in Hetton, Shaw, and in Ruth. So again, we appreciate you supporting the fire crews. We're all in this together. It really is, at this point in time, going to be more beneficial to have the discussions about the armchair quarterbacking and the after-action reviewing after we get through this. There's still a lot of fire in the landscape. We do have to get containment lines around it. We do have to keep going day after day and keeping our troops motivated and fed and watered, and they're going to get hot meals. I think they got their first hot meals last night since the blow-up Hayfork caterers unit is in place. And we just want to thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and end it here, Willie, so we can get back to what you're doing.
Thank you.
We have some missions to run out. We're going to go up to Hypebomb again today and out to the fire area to try to get you more footage. We appreciate everybody who's been on our YouTube channel. There's over 150 videos there, 150 that you can see just about everything that we're able to capture right now as to what's going on. So thank you, everybody, for all your support. We appreciate all those comments to the firefighters. We pass them on to them as we drive by and as we connect with them, and you can see it actually lift their spirits up, because they know this has been a hard battle, and there's going to be emotional consequences, and we want to minimize those so they can keep focused. So thank you so much.